Good afternoon and good morning, because we have quite an international audience with us today. I'm delighted to get underway with our Predictive AI World session today on AI-powered personal assistance in operational and sales excellence. We're fortunate to have with us today the co-founder of Okapi, Iris Tissadim. The company is Israeli-based and they're rapidly expanding their market presence into North America. Our company, SalesChoice, is a strategic alliance partner of Okapi. And today we're going to introduce you our powerful combined AI, powerful personal assistance, smartest solution offering, and discuss with you how your organizations can achieve higher levels of operational sales excellence outcomes. We'd also want to ensure that this is a learning opportunity for all of you, so I think you'll find we've got lots of little gems and factoids that hopefully will be inspirational. I just finished reviewing the roster of registrants, and I'm really thrilled to see we've got so many presidents and CEOs and CFOs, and it's really quite a senior audience today, from diverse industries like financial services, manufacturing, insurance, some pretty large professional services consulting firms, even some folks from British Telecom, out of the UK office. Apple's here, Intel, so brands you recognize, and even some, leaders in product development that are building out software solutions in companies like Salesforce, Maximizer, Dimension Data. So just to share with you, you've got a really good roster of people that are keen to, to learn, and that's what we really try and do in this series. In terms of myself, you're hearing the voice of Dr. Cindy Gordon. I'm the CEO and founder of SalesChoice, and we're all about advancing sales productivity. In my prior roles at Xerox, I've always been very concerned about how to, really drive the middle frozen layer where 30 to 60% of the professionals in sales don't make their sales plans. And, now that I've immersed myself in the last 5 years building out this company, I'm absolutely committed to moving these personal assistants and AI tools into the market, because I absolutely know firsthand how it can drive productivity, sales forecasting improvement, but also accelerate, more importantly, top-line revenue growth. So it's no longer just an idea. This is real. We're particularly focused on advancing AI personal assistant solutions, which is why we're very delighted and thrilled to have Iris join us, the CEO and co-founder of Okapi. And I'm going to let Iris introduce and say a few words about herself and the company, Okapi. So Iris, over to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Tidon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Okapi, and we're excited to join you all today and be with our strategic partners, SalesChoice. For most organizations, analyzing data is a labor-intensive process. For Okapi customers, you get meaningful data-driven insights in real time. Okapi uses artificial intelligence to give data-driven recommendations and alerts, and then helps execute and monitor your progress. I will tell you more about Okapi and share customer success stories as we advance in our presentation today together. Cindy, back to you.
Thanks, Iris. In terms of the agenda, it's pretty jam-packed, so we're going to move at a pretty fast pace. Obviously, we want to get to the case studies and insights and lessons learned through our various deployments, but we do want to start off with highlighting some of the industry dynamics with AI, some of the sales and operational pain points, as Iris mentioned, give you more context on both what we do. But the bulk of our presentations on case study, the customer journey, some of the methodology approaches, particularly lessons learned in the session that I always enjoy the most, honestly, is hearing from you on this call. So I'd encourage you to, in GoToMeeting, to put your questions in advance so we can see them. We've got team members here monitoring the questions, so to kind of give us a heads up, and we'll try and go through as many of them as possible at the end. So let's get underway. In terms of the AI industry dynamics, it's been interesting to watch this market, but I find it quite overwhelming to know that over 90% of the world's data has just been created in the past 2 years. It effectively means that everything that we do is irrelevant in less than 4 hours, just the sheer volume of explosion. And around us, this incredible tsunami of big data, yet we often have little data that we as actionable or that we can actually mine in terms of finding the gems. So it's a really quite a dichotomy. You know, if you think about, these are rising waters and tides, and we're all in many respects having a great deal of difficulty keeping current, keeping afloat. And AI is certainly one of the areas to deal with, you know, this rising tide, often classified as augmented intelligence and some of the new domains, or cognitive science, which is really about how we can improve our capabilities just because of those dynamics. The worldwide spending, if you're not following this market, is staggering. It's a market that's predicted to rise to over 46 billion by 2020. The stats are over 760% increase of growth from 2016, according to IDC. You'll obviously see within the different analysts some variances, but there's no question that the growth is significant. I've already mentioned to you that what we want to do is to introduce not just simply AI kind of guided insights or KPIs, but the power of 24/7 personal AI assistants that are actually mining the patterns and surfing out those gems and insights to really help increase the productivity. That's a very, very significant differentiation that's going to unfold in the market. You basically are going to be guided whether you're on point or off point, and as you make decisions in real time through operating processes, that the personal assistants will be continuing to learn through machine learning methods. So Iris, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk specifically about some of the operational pain points that you've been seeing through your deployments, and then where these solutions can bring value.
Thank you, Cindy. Let's review the three main operational pain points that we find frequently in organizations. The first one is about time-consuming efforts on analyzing the data each period. Surveys show that organizations with around 500 employees spend an average of 350 hours on analyzing their outcomes each period. It causes 65% of the organizations to do this only once a quarter. Although in today's dynamic business environment, organizations must make decisions in near real time. Another challenge is that organizations tend to focus on financial data only. They miss out on a 360-degree view of their organization, especially internal processes and customers and employees' perspectives that can help them understand which business processes they need to improve and what skills their employees need. The second pain is the misalignment between the company objectives and the day-to-day main tasks of every manager and employee. 80% of managers report they are not familiar with the company goals. The employee making day-to-day decision doesn't have a transparent view of his outcomes and doesn't know if they are aligned to the unified company goals. More than that, BI reports are only transparent to senior management or BI analysts. This information is not available to other managers. The third operational pain is the lack of tools required to improve performance. By 2020, 50% of the workforce will be millennials who are used to the digital world and free access to platforms like Netflix, which recommends movies based on their past choices, and Waze, which recommends the best way to their target based on crowdsourcing and artificial intelligence. All these personal assistants do not require any previous analytical abilities. In 2017, they expect to get the same solutions in their work environment. Simple on-demand access to information, on-demand analysis of their current performance and future predictions, and recommendations for the next steps in order to improve their performance and their contribution to the company goals. I'm now going to pass our discussion from operational pain points to discuss sales pain points. Over to you, Cindy.
Thanks, Iris. Hopefully some of these additional pain points resonate with everyone. I think they're very systemic in primarily B2B organizations, although some of the points I do think are applicable to B2C. I think the first point that I want to really kind of pause on is really talk about the age of distraction. And because of, as I mentioned, the rising tide and the sheer volume of data, there is a cost that is happening in the sense of the productivity of B2B sales professionals. It's actually plummeting to all-time lows of less than 30% productivity in terms of in-field time. And it's also driven from the fact that the human attention span has dropped by over 50% in the last 10 years, primarily with the advent of mobile. As a result, I really do see the data, and pardon the metaphor, is almost burying us. It's literally choking us. And much of what we're receiving is not actionable. So how do you cut down the noise? How do you get to the best surfing points, like Iris just mentioned in terms of the analogy to Waze or to Uber or Netflix? The gems are in the data, but we no longer as humans can we find them. So sales professionals have the responsibility in their organizations to really drive performance, top-line revenue growth. But when they're not focused, it certainly impacts us. The other dynamic that's happening is as a result of the information overload, and I think it's just driving a more acute intensity, is that 30% of sales professionals suffer from attention deficit disorder, meaning that they're very easily distracted. They often like to chase the next shiny object versus focusing on advancing what is already germinating and is well within their reach in their sales pipeline. And I do think that marketing professionals are also a root causal for some of the declining productivity. I hope you can all take this in the spirit of its best intentions, that every single point that comes over the bow needs to be precise and add value. And I think that's really cause for reflection on the campaigns and the leads and the channels. And sometimes less is more. And I admire the creativity, but if the win-loss rates aren't increasing and the results aren't increasing, we really do need to be mindful of those impacts. Now, a few other facts that sometimes we forget about that have been here and alive and well is that over 79% of sales organizations, pretty well globally, miss their sales forecast by more than 10%. That's not a necessarily new factoid because the finance people always discount what sales professionals, but wouldn't it be nice that you'd get a forecast and it would be really, really accurate based on all of the dynamics and the hidden gems, whether they're inside the CRM or outside, and have them all coalesce like a smart agent. That's all within our reach. And those are some of the problems that Okapi and SalesChoice are solving. More concerning is that over 54% of all forecasted deals by sellers never make it to the finish line. And another root cause there is the fact that sales professionals can get distracted. They're not as persistent, in the coverage or increasing the coverage. Some other opportunity or senior management may say, hey, I think this one looks more promising. And to our earlier point, the focus is really, really critical. Experienced hunters know how to stay focused. The middle frozen need, aids, etc., more coaching, and that's where these tools can really make an impact. Sales reps today, just in case you didn't know, have just 12% of customers' total mind share across the entire B2B purchasing cycle. And more concerning is the methods of their reaching the customers to continue to have a meaningful, connected conversation is getting harder and harder. Folks are not responding to emails. It's very, very difficult to get people to report to their phone calls. So the hooks in the conversations have to be at the point where there's some mind share or build up that, if you want to call it, that affiliation where there is interest and you already have a kind of a warmed up suspect where they see some value in the conversations that they've been receiving. It's a little bit more problematic in Canada because Canadians have a new law which impacts our ability to send direct emails. So it's more of a opt-in versus an opt-out, which creates a real interesting dynamic for businesses. Finding the right opportunities at the end of the day is what it's all about, to prioritize, predict, pace, in order to achieve the operational sales excellence. Now let's move to, kind of that broader perspective of information overload, inability to focus, inaccurate sales forecasts, and the need to increase mind share. Let's move to talking about AI-powered personal assistance foundations, and I'm now going to turn it back to Iris.